Hi, I'm Dan, welcome to Muff Wash. See what we've got in today. We've got quite an eclectic mix as per usual. Bit of a theme, and it's part sharing with these that we've got in. You've got this Ducati Street Fighter in front of me, who are obviously now owned by Audi, Volkswagen Audi Group, Porsche, Audi, Volkswagen, Lamborghini, Ducati, Bentley. There's loads there, and it's not uncommon nowadays to see part sharing going into cars and into bikes. These, for example, they do a V4, which if you go into a Lamborghini showroom, you'll see the Lamborghini Ducati V4 Street Fighter that they've done on a kind of limited number. Really cool thing, but what tends to, when they're a publicised shared effort, it tends to just be a paint job, wheels, things like that. There's not a great deal of engineering actually goes into it nowadays. What you will see that isn't publicised, you know, this M5 behind me, you'll see BMW engines going in Land Rovers, but it won't really be talked about, or you'll see BMW tech going in a Rolls Royce, or the key will be the same, things like that, but they're not badged up and you don't see it. In the early days of part sharing, it was kind of a bit more out there for people to see. So you had, in the early 90s, things like Lotus Carlton, that was a joint venture with Vauxhall to make that car. And then this behind me, which is quite a famous car, it's the first ever RS Audi, but it was actually developed not just by Audi, but by Porsche. And if you walk around the car, you'll see there's Porsche badges on the car. There's Porsche badges underneath the engine bay, which nowadays you wouldn't see. So I'll walk you around this car. We've had it for about a week. It's quite an interesting car. I mean, they were so follow on from the Audi Quattro. They were alleged to be the fastest estate car in the world when they were developed. They weren't. I think they were just put to the post by Volvo. But obviously these cars are now allowed to, you know, Audi RS3s, RS4s, 5s, 6s. It's a big brand, and this is where I started. So we'll walk you through and show you what we've done to the car and show you some of the interesting things that we found on it along the way. Okay, so to walk you around this RS2, it's quite an unusual one actually. I mean, this is the third RS2 we've worked on, which considering the quite small numbers in the UK is quite a privilege. This one is Regatta Green, which is an unusual colour. It was a standard colour on these, but quite often the ones you see nowadays, there's a few red ones, but the Nogaro Blue, which I think was called RS Blue at the time, is a really popular colour. They do look mega in that. So the last two we've had have been that colour. This one's been a bit more interesting. It's a rarer colour and it's come up really well, but we'll talk about what we've done to the car in a second. I thought at least show you around some of the interesting bits. So again, go back to what I was saying before. Badge on the front of the car, Audi RS2 Porsche written underneath, which is, you wouldn't think of that nowadays. And then you open the bonnet to see Porsche embossed on the head. It's an Audi engine. It was a 5-cylinder turbo. I went into them, I think they're about 310 horsepower, so they're a quick car. I mean, they're getting on for 30 years old, these now. But Porsche reworked the head in the factory. So, for example, I was talking to my dad the other day. He was on a factory tour at Zuffenhausen in the mid-90s, and they had a queue of these things sat outside from Audi, waiting to be taken into the Porsche factory to be worked on. So they started as an Audi 80 estate. Audi fitted the bodywork, so they've got a slightly wider body kit on the car, but the tasks for them were kind of upping the interior, a bit more luxury inside, but anything performance-wise, they turned to Porsche to help them. So at the time, that era, it was 964 911s, 968 Club Sport was quite a popular car. That was like Porsche's track-focused car of the time. So to walk around this, you'll suddenly start noticing little things from those cars. So these lights, for example, you'll recognise those. They're exactly the same as the lights on a 964 911. Same with the mirrors. I mean, these were shared on 911s at the time, on the 968s, they came off that. The wheels as well, you'll see those are off a 968 Club Sport, and this is how they came out the box. The only difference is they've got Audi centre caps, not Porsche ones, but again, if you get into the wheel arches, you'll see Porsche written on the brake calipers because the brakes and suspension were lifted again from the 968. put onto this to add to the performance. It just makes it a really interesting car, because you just wouldn't imagine that nowadays. You see part sharing going on, but it wouldn't be that openly publicised. So this has obviously kick-started the RS department for Audi, and they're becoming a really, really collectible cars, these. I mean, the last one that we did for a customer here in Cheshire ended up being bought by a collector in New Zealand. The car was shipped over there, and it lives in a garage with Ferrari Enzos, F40s, 918 Spiders. It's crazy to see. So to talk you through what we've done to the car, obviously we're a detailing company, so we've had it for just over a week, and it's kind of had everything thrown at it that we can. I mean, it's mostly original car, like the paintwork isn't perfect, there's stone chips, there were some deeper marks in there, but sometimes with these cars, you don't really want to go down the route of respraying them or anything like that when they don't need them. So we've worked on the bodywork, the underneath of the car, the wheels have been off it, so we've obviously been in all the wheel arches and things like that. Some of the grills down at the bottom, respraying those, because again, where stones have been hitting them, the paint started to flake, and it certainly doesn't look 30 years old now to walk around it. So we've done so when I say we've done the underside of the car, we spent about a day underneath it, just stripping out as much grime and as much salt, all these things that build up underneath the car, tidying up things like the back boxes, suspension components, and then eventually undersealing it, so it just stops any future corrosion, any rust happening or anything like that. So it's a cosmetic thing, but it's also a kind of a maintenance thing. When cars start to get to this age, it's a big, big benefit to have. And then from an aesthetics point of view, the paintwork was fairly rough, as I say, when it came in, so a lot of machine polishing has gone on, sort of 2-3 stages of machine polishing all over the car, which has done wonders for the colour, because it removes kind of swirl marks, light scratches, oxidisation, which you see quite a lot with cars of this sort of age, and it really brings out the colour. There's loads of metallic flake in this colour as well, so it's kind of, when you hear people talk about car popping, that's the aim. And then once that's done, we have ceramic coated the car. We use G-Technic products, so it's had G-Technic Crystal Serum Ultra ceramic coating on the bodywork. The wheels, again, they've come off the car. A couple of them have had average wheel refurbs in the past, so we've done our best. They've kind of been polished up and coated with a high temperature coating on the wheels. The calipers have had the same, the glass has had the same, and then the interior, again, we spent about a day inside the car. It's all original, so you'll see leather starts to go a bit shiny, or it looks a bit worn. Half the time that's just dirt, so you know, there's still showing signs of cracking and things like that inside the car, but it's a 30-year-old car, and it keeps it all original, but it looks really, really, really good. And then other things you see inside these, they've got like blue weave carbon fibre in there, so that's all been polished and treated, as have the carpets. So we do all that to protect them. Obviously this car is, I believe, going to be used. It's a collector, it's actually a Porsche collector that we've done quite a few cars for, so he's got, you know, loads of GT3s from kind of 996 era, 997, and quite often you'll see a lot of Porsche fans beeline to these, although they're an Audi, they've got that crossover, but he uses his cars, so you know, a lot of his Porsches, he'll do track days, things like that, so having that kind of protection on the car means he can go out any weather. Car's undersealed, it doesn't matter, you know, the design's to be used and not sit in a collection. So yeah, we've probably had about 80 man hours go into the car, I'd say, and it looks absolutely mega.